When you think about a nuclear power plant, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Probably that huge reactor building, right? Or maybe the giant cooling towers. But what about the really critical systems? The ones hidden just a few feet beneath the ground? Well, today we're going underground. We're going to explore the world of the nuclear trench. And I promise you, by the end of this, you'll see how this thing that sounds so simple is actually a hidden labyrinth, absolutely essential to keeping a plant safe and running. So let's dive in. You know, this is how one of the engineers on site described it. Not a ditch, not just a tunnel, a labyrinth. That one word just completely changes the picture, doesn't it? It makes you think of this complex, twisting, interconnected network that was designed with a purpose, and it's holding secrets that we almost never get to see. This is so much more than just a place to stick some pipes. It's a whole world of its own.
So, let's get a clear definition here. What exactly is a nuclear facility trench? Well, at its most basic, it's a super robust concrete underground tunnel. But its job is incredibly specific. It's there to house and, more importantly, protect the absolute lifelines of the entire plant. So really, you've got to forget any idea of a simple ditch. This is custom-built, underground armor.
Okay, to really truly understand how important these things are, I think the best way to do it is to imagine the entire nuclear plant as a kind of living body. All the different buildings you can see, the reactor, the turbine hall, the water intake, think of those as the vital organs. So, what are the trenches? Well, they're the plant's entire vascular system.
And this analogy just works perfectly when you break it down. The pipes inside are carrying all the crucial fluids, like cooling water. Those are literally the plant's blood vessels, circulating its lifeblood. And the thousands of cables carrying power and control data. Come on, those are the nerves, right? Sending all those critical signals from the brain to the rest of the body. Without this network, you don't have a power plant. You just have a bunch of isolated buildings that can't work together.
So job number one for this vascular system is just to connect everything. But its second job, and you could argue this is even more critical, is to be an unbreakable shield. And this is where we get into some serious engineering. We're talking about designs that aren't for a normal Tuesday afternoon, but for the absolute worst-case scenario you can possibly imagine.
And this slide just lays it out perfectly. On the left, you've got a standard trench for regular construction. It's simple. But look at the right. A trench that connects the S-class buildings, those are the most critical, safety-related structures, has to meet the exact same unbelievable standards. It has to have a seismic rating to withstand massive earthquakes, which is why it has these flexible joints built in so it can move with the ground instead of just snapping. And after the lessons learned from Fukushima, those seals have to be 100% watertight to stop a tsunami from flooding the system. This isn't just construction, it's a high-stakes art form.
Of course, it's not just about those huge, unthinkable disasters. These trenches are pulling double duty every single day. They're shielding all those vital pipes and cables from the enormous weight of trucks and vehicles driving right over the top of them. And they're protecting them from the constant threat of corrosive groundwater. It's basically a 24/7 protection detail. But here's the thing, shielding everything from the outside world, that's only half the story. A nuclear trench has another, totally unique job that you wouldn't find anywhere else. It has to contain a risk that comes from within. It has to act as a proactive defense system against the potential spread of radioactive materials. And that brings us to the big what if. This is the scenario that keeps engineers up at night, and the one they absolutely have to plan for. If a pipe carrying potentially contaminated liquid were to break inside that trench, what happens? Does it just soak into the soil? Well, the answer is a hard no, because the trench itself is designed for this exact moment. See, this thing isn't just a passive tunnel, it's an active safety system. The second a leak happens, the design just kicks into gear. The floor is actually sloped, so it channels any liquid towards special collection points. At those points, you have sensors that immediately sound an alarm. And, most importantly, the sealed concrete structure itself is the final barrier, keeping any contamination locked inside, away from the environment. So you can see this whole safety system hinges on one simple thing, the physical integrity of the trench itself. Because of some past incidents at other plants, making sure these structures are sound, meaning totally free of cracks and perfectly sealed, has shot up to become one of the absolute highest priorities for plant managers today. Constant inspection is everything.
All right, so now that we know what they do and why they're so important, let's take a quick look at the anatomy of this whole system. Because just like in our bodies, this underground network is not a one-size-fits-all kind of deal. It has different kinds of arteries and nerves for different jobs.
You've basically got a few specialized parts to this system.
You have your standard piping trenches, which are like the general circulatory system for things like firewater. Then you've got your electrical trenches, which, you guessed it, are the nervous system. And then you have the giants, the seawater trenches. These things are enormous tunnels, like the body's main arteries, built to move just colossal amounts of cooling water from the sea into the plant.
And, this kind of engineering is never really done. It's a field that is constantly evolving. A massive amount of work today is going into seismic retrofitting, upgrading older trenches to meet today's much stricter standards. And they're also tackling the incredibly complex job of mapping out brand new routes to connect the next generation of safety facilities. The labyrinth, it's always growing.
So, the next time you happen to see a power plant, just take a second to remember that invisible, hidden labyrinth working tirelessly right beneath the surface. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? If this much incredible engineering is hidden away in just one facility, what other invisible marvels are out there, all around us, protecting us in plain sight every single day? It's definitely something to think about. Thanks so much for joining me.